around. New look. So this is our new design. This has taken a very long time, but now this is the format that you will see in the future as our new faculty design. For me, it's just different colors, so I'm a little bit ignorant. I know marketing is very powerful. I recognize it, but again, it's was a big thing for us apparently. Okay, today we extend the discussion from last week from kind of communication, and we had a rough look at media that we can use to kind of exchange, roughly speaking, data or information. Today I want to up the game a little bit and have a quick look at project knowledge management and build on that and show you the character where it becomes difficult. So in information science, and you will see this, we have as well an aligned session where we look at the supply chain in terms of information exchange and technical details often. There is often a very scientific look at it, so we treat knowledge nearly like a commodity. For us as project manager, we have technical details, but we often have as well the human interface, which makes it a tricky thing to just look at it that way. Hence the session on project knowledge management. Okay, so my reading again, this time we are more in the Oxford Handbook on Project Management, if you want to read the chapter with it. There is a corresponding paper as well in the International Journal of Project Management. I didn't realize it, but it's literally the same article. So I don't know how they got that organized with the copyright, but well done them. This is Lars Lindqvist. And then the alternative papers are again there. And of course I recommend my personal paper here in particular. This is of course the non plus ultra one to read. It's a quick read, so it's only a 10-pager. So it's very good, of course. Okay. Enough of that. So why do we actually look at knowledge management? Well, abstraction allows modeling, and if you have understood that, you have understood everything. So it's basically the idea transfer or understanding what I have in my head, so that I can communicate it to you in a meaningful way, that you have an understanding of what I have in my head in the first place, and vice versa. So why do we need to know, and why do we need people that know? And I thought I start off with a famous chestnut that nobody wants to talk about, but I thought this is a good start to talk about it. So this happened in 2009. There was an angry letter from, I read it out. So in summary, Your Majesty, the failure to foresee the timing, extent and severity of the crisis and to head it off while it had many causes was principally a failure of the collective imagination of many bright people, both in this country and then, of course, they always put the blame on other people. Now that was a correspondence to the letter of Her Queen the Majesty of the UK, and many other places. I should add, the title is actually quite long. So she had basically kind of questions how we as scientists, and particularly the British Academy of Economists, could not foresee the economic crisis coming. That was a purpose, and you can see here that there are different causes that they kind of leave in the abstract, but that is a latitude that we are coming to. So if you know, you are not running into blind failure. You are kind of becoming aware of what you do not know. Does that make sense? So there are the known unknowns. This is, you know, and I know that we do not know. This is good. We can then figure a way out to kind of come to terms with what we don't know. We can investigate it. But there's as well the unknown unknowns, and those are the particular tricky ones. This is to say, we don't even know that we don't know. This is did you see it's big. So anyway, this is why we should really have a careful look at project knowledge management. And there's another problem with this. So for us, and I follow here the colleagues that came up with this definition, it's very important to understand that knowledge is more than just data or information. Yeah, it's of course, well, I read it out, the definition to not distort it completely. Knowledge is neither data nor information, so it is related to both, and the differences between these terms are often a matter of degree. Now, there is an implication here. So if we are talking about knowledge, we know as well the meaning of data. We may even understand the data. Actually, this is often not the case. Often we can then use this data to achieve an understanding of information, yeah, and that information makes sense to us. Maybe we understand or we know what to do with it. Yeah, this is basically where we arrive with that. So it's still a little bit abstract. So, but just to reiterate here, data can be part of information and data can be part of knowledge. So it's not interchangeable concept necessarily. It's often illustrated as a linear concept though. So be careful. There are competing concepts here. Okay, so let's have a look at more functional definitions. So knowledge is a fluid mix of framed experiences. So this is you are in the world, you are experiencing something. Yeah, this is what we are relating to. It's value-led. If you are not looking out for it, yeah, you will probably not experience this. Do the joke with your friends or colleagues. Go with a lawyer once around the block. Yeah, or if you have a legal person, yeah, take them on the hand and walk once around the block. Then do the same exercise. Take a friend that is a sociologist or something like that, or banker. And they will all spot something different. Yeah, it's what we are looking for, our values that we are looking for. We have a completely different experience. This is important to recognize. Now with this, there is contextual information, maybe even expert insight, that provides a framework for evaluating and incorporating new experiences and information. So it originates and is applied in the mind of the knowers. So this is an individual thing. Yeah, and when I write here knowledge management, that does not mean you want to, well, you can manage people, but all I'm saying is that there is something implicit here. Yeah, so people normally don't like to share if you're kind of telling them what to do. Yeah, so there's all I'm saying there is a potential oxymoron here that we have to be sensitive to and approach it the right way. Yeah. So in organization, it often becomes embedded not only in documents or repositories, but also in organizational routines, processes, and practices and norms. This is already assuming we have routines. So in many organizations, this may be the case. In small-sized organization, it's kind of what you expected. Yeah. So what people want to see from you or what they take for granted. Yeah. I hope that makes a little bit sense. So it's quite a hefty definition, and to kind of hook it as well to memory. So again, I'm not sure Albert Einstein actually said that. There are many famous people that have said a lot. I'm not sure that it always is really their quote, so it's certainly not in a paper from him. So Albert Einstein famously observed that knowledge is experience, everything else is just information. So already kind of making it contextual, so that knowledge lies within the knower. And Heidegger is another one that had with Being and Time, one of the kind of masterpieces that we use a lot for programming, yeah? And kind of constructing our new world. So if knowing is at all, yeah, and this is a big question, it belongs solely to those entities which know. Yeah? And this is then potentially you or the person next to you. Yeah? Okay. So how do we know we know, and the dilemma of not knowing what we do not know. So I said the chestnut already. Well, first of all, for knowledge creation, we actually have a Polanyi's dichotomy. So he kind of divided it in explicit. This is know-how that can be described as information depending on cognition. So it's basically your refined observations. And you can refine quite a lot, yeah, but it's basically what you can manifest in symbolic representation, language, you name it, drawings, maybe in a video, yeah, or all formats. I've just named here media, yeah, but the idea is it's capturable. Now there is as well the tacit, and that is unarticulated, rooted in experience, tied to the senses, and a very personal experience often. Now that is something that is not necessarily easily to be shared. Yeah? Already here we have great difficulties, but on the tacit side this becomes very challenging. So often we look then at experience horizons, shared ones, that we have actually a reference. Yeah? Now, whilst this is quite a good way of doing it for academics writing paper and databases, it's not so useful for us as project manager. And I have examples later on that hopefully make a little bit sense of this. For us as project managers, often this model is a better starting point, starting to think about it. Yeah, this is from Nonoka and Takushi, and they came up with that around 1995. The individual concepts were actually around for quite some time, but they kind of brought it together into a useful spiral of knowledge creation. Yeah? And I've as well explained it on the next slide. So you have this socialization. This is tacit to tacit. So you are engaging. This means you have to turn up, right? This is very important. Yeah. So if you have a meaningful element of knowing something that you cannot really get your head around, yeah, then go there and have a look at what they're actually doing. So sharing experience via the direct conveyance, there's a beautiful language that they use there. So you're basically being exposed to it, yeah, and as you can see in our level here, this is tacit to tacit, yeah, and it allows you then to potentially starting a dialogue about what you didn't understand up front. Yeah, often this is very difficult, but again, this is kind of the starting point where you can as well have more explicit knowledge to kind of frame it a little bit and remove the tacitness of it. But again, it's not an exchange. Yeah? So this is just like basically a help construct. So externalization is articulating tacit knowledge into explicit concepts. Now, that is, if you want, the dialogue. And here you have as well linking explicit knowledge maybe to existing experience. Yeah, so a combination. What do I mean by that? I mean by that the combination explicit to explicit. This is I have some information on the project. Yeah, so I know we had a deadline today for the submission. But I know as well that there is a gambling deadline that you have till tonight, yeah, where you can have another look through all the assessments. Yeah, now I can kind of combine this with you, and I can tell you already who has submitted, but do I know if you all are confident with your assessment? I do not know, yeah? It's an abstract construct, but we can start talking about it, yeah? So you may, I may think you take your accepted assessment, but you may gamble and go for another assessment. Yeah, this is in the cards. Yeah. So here we have structuring concepts into knowledge systems, and be aware we use here narratives. We don't actually confront each other with the whole complicatedness of the world. It would be a nightmare. Just imagine. I came out of the door and then I'm describing for 10 minutes that there was a little bit cold wind coming from the right. I could smell the ocean from the left. It's very detailed, yeah, but that's not insightful if you're interested if I made it all right this morning to work, yeah. This is a little bit too much. You will probably never ask me that question again. Yeah, so again, we kind of structured in conceptions and narratives to actually make sense of it. And then last but not least, going back again, it's the internalization. Yeah? It's basically learning by doing. So you have now the abstract and you make sense for yourself. Yeah? So you try to apply it, you maybe do it. I'm not sure that I'm particular fond of the learning. So it's really more a trial and error. Yeah? So you take the conceptual landscape that you have and give it a go. Yeah? And reinvent it for yourself. Yeah? And then you have the explicit and you arrive at a tacit experience. Yeah? You maybe realize that if you do any sports, yeah, this is a classic, people tell you this is particularly hard, and then you experience it with your own body and you realize like, hey, wait a minute, this part wasn't hard, the other part was hard. Yeah? So there may be something like that, depending on how focused this is. And that then allows you, again, building kind of your own mental representation and the field. And again, through socialization, you can again share this and make it more meaningful. Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is all very conceptual and abstract. So if you have been with me, this is very good. We have, of course, to look now at practical application so that we can anchor this as well in a certain way and be satisfied actually with what I actually mean by project knowledge management. So first of all, first encounter is normally quite scary because you stop realizing that sending somebody an email is a full conversation and you can assume that he's ready to do everything. So it's a little bit like sitting in a little dinghy, to be again a little bit too specific, off the coast of South Africa in Cape Town. Here you can see fishhook is in the background. And you just notice that your dinghy is in size outmatched by a great white shark that has as well gained interest in you. So it feels a little bit like that, particular if you really take knowledge management serious. And once you actually give it a shot, it can be amazing. Yeah? It can be a beautiful encounter. So this is a metaphor. Yeah? So I'm kind of trying to communicate the social experience of discovering project knowledge management. But again, it's only meaningful in your personal reference frame. Yeah? So try it out and see if it actually works as a metaphor. More grounded, the concept of project knowledge management comes really from the kind of theoretic body of knowledge management. And knowledge management sits originally in library studies and information sciences. Yeah. Has so its spin-off. So there is a lot of, it's a new emerging body of knowledge really. So knowledge management in project situations and those link between the principles of knowledge management and project management. This comes from Hanisch that kind of wrote a book chapter about it, but this is actually his initial paper. You have both at your exposure. The idea really being we don't necessarily build here a library. Yeah, we want to kind of look at knowledge management functionally for our project scenario. Yeah? So there's a recognition already that in projects we are slightly constrained. Now this constraint goes a little bit further. So the idea comes really from knowledge as a resource of competitive advantage. So increasing knowledge intensity of work, contents, and the projectification of businesses give a rise to a need for the management of knowledge in and between temporary organizations. So Lindner and White really looked in particular at projects running from project-based organizations. Yeah? So there's an intentionality in the company that you may be based in as a project manager or as a project team. And you notice that you have a lot of upfront knowledge about projects, similar projects, but not the same, that you can actually kind of bring forward. Yeah? So this maybe you have already an idea how your suppliers work with you. Yeah? So you know that, actually I experience this firsthand. I renovate at the moment like something like 7 properties as a hobby. And I do it. I manage it, yeah. And they are painting teams. So if I don't get them on the phone, then communication technologies will make it very difficult to actually engage with that person. So they don't look at emails, although they have all the media there. So it's a key element to kind of get them by phone. And although they're experienced painters, they don't really understand kind of passive house standards. So this is kind of what we are building there. And so I have to actually show them, because otherwise they come along with their materials, do what they have always done, and it's not the right thing. Yeah? Okay, so this is a little bit the problem behind it, if you want. Now, with project knowledge management in project organizations, we have a certain divide. So where we have actually a dilemma. Yeah, so we have our permanent organization. This may be departments, division. If you're a small-sized company, it's maybe your team. Yeah? You have a shared base of knowledge, and this can be anything. This is your explicit knowledge. It's your tacit knowledge. The tacit knowledge is there in people around you. Yeah? So if you have a senior colleague, and you have a new challenging project, and you don't know how to tackle this, what do? If you know he has done it before, what would you do?
You recruit him.
Pardon? Yeah?
You recruit him.
Oh, recruit. Okay, I like it. So you have already kind of the consultancy idea, yeah? Normally in a company you would just ask him, right? It's not that difficult actually. I understand that the knowledge management is potentially a big concept. But here you kind of have the people, yeah? So you have your direct contacts to speak to, but you have as well maybe your databases that you can get access to. So this is quite easy. And arguably in the company you should know how the databases are working. Having said that, I recognize that it is often not the case. So at my university we update regularly our web pages or forms, and then we are searching for quite some time. It's not just me. I ask my admin team as well, like, hey, where's this form gone? And they're, oh, we have a new web page. And this is normally not a surprise and look at the amazingness. It's more like, let's search for the forms. So there is a recognition already that it's maybe that there are some dividing factors, but at least you sit all in the same organization. So arguably you have access to each other. Yeah. Now there's a problem now. There is as well the intra-project knowledge. So this is knowledge that is within. Oh, I've jumped one. Sorry, my apologies. So we have the permanent organization. Then we have the knowledge about the current projects. So this may be you working in a project or having to work on the project. So you have kind of an understanding what the project is about, but you have no first-hand experience yet of the project. It may not have started. Yeah, and that brings us to the next category. We have as well the intra-project knowledge, which is kind of the knowledge when you actually do the project. Yeah, so you have first-hand experience, you know what's going on. You have built maybe relationship with some of the people. You know that some are better in communicating. Some actually show you what's going on. They are kind of there. And it's in this project you have knowledge. Now the dilemma with that is this may be very similar to the intra-project knowledge B, but of course B you're not experiencing. Yeah? So the famous chestnut at the moment, what we see in London we have a cross-rail project where we build basically 4 stations exactly the same, but by different contractors. And they are encouraged to kind of share knowledge, but this is of course ill-defined. Yeah? So ideally, in an ideal world, they would speak to each other. Hey, we have noticed there are some issues with groundwater pushing at certain levels, and we have found a lot of graveyards in one of the tunnels. So if you are digging that way, you're very likely to hit them too, and if you don't want to destroy them and get fined by the client, you should be careful with what you're doing. But of course they don't say that. They actually hide it. They stop their machines and tell their client. So there is actually this encouragement of exchange here because of the contractual nature. Yeah, if you're in the same company, this is super, right? You can talk to your mate and say, hey, how is your project going? Yeah, so it depends on the relationship here. If you have access can use it as a backbone, the knowledge between the projects that may run in parallel. Now, if you are looking at knowledge from upstream projects or downstream projects, so imagine you're working on this one, then if you have worked on this, easy. Yeah? So you have already an understanding and knowledge. If a colleague has worked on it, same company, again, brilliant. You can talk to him, right? This is the idea. Yeah. So you can ask them with problems, come up with your solutions, and ask what they did. Yeah. And you will be expected to do so, of course. Yeah. Then we have as well the project knowledge between intra-project knowledge and the permanent organization. This is kind of the 5th one. And that is an interesting one. Depending on how you get paid and are incentivized, this is a very good mechanism to kind of exchange knowledge, or a very bad one. Yeah? So if you have an organization where you are project managers and you are kind of getting your projects by maybe speciality or maturity and maybe budget size, then it's absolutely fine. You're very likely to get great feedback from your more senior colleagues, or you are very happy to give as well advice to your junior colleagues, and vice versa. Yeah? So then this is actually a wonderful model. if you have a contract that looks at success rates, so maybe how much you spend off the budget, how much money you have saved, how quickly you have done that, then there is very little attempt, and I don't want to say that you are actually incentivized to lie, but it's called strategic misrepresentation, and there's a lot of literature about it, and my colleague Ben Flyberg writes at the moment a lot of books about this. Yeah, so this is a phenomena that we have a lot in project-based organizations. So then there's no incentive to be honest about it. And what's worse is, if you are starting now here as a project manager, then you are expected to perform to the same criteria that were never achieved in the first place. Did you see the trouble? Yeah. Okay, this is basically the underlining way of unifying the knowledge and kind of starting to come to a nice theory that we can use. So quite straightforward. Yeah, not yet, but yeah, this is what I just talked you through. So yeah, why do we actually look at this before we come to the example? Well, in its simplest form, knowledge management is about encouraging people to share knowledge and ideas to create value-adding products and services. And another definition, a more recent one, knowledge will be used for developing new knowledge, ideas, and insights. It's talking to each other and showing each other ideas. Yeah? And we have already kind of covered this a little bit. This is actually quite difficult if you just talk about it and you don't have models or kind of conceptions, abstractions that allow you to be more explicit. Yeah, shall we do first? I'm just thinking we could as well first do the case study. This would be probably... Yeah, okay, we do first categorization and then have a look. So project knowledge management has a little bit a different objective from normal knowledge management. Yeah. So you notice maybe as well that in a project, when it gets stressful, we rarely sit down as a project manager, and I repeat this, but you should do it. Yeah. If it's really stressful and there's a lot of problems coming, you should sit down and read books. Yeah, and read up on the problems. Normally we don't do this. Yeah, we run and kind of pour water about. The fire is a metaphor or analogy that my colleagues always use. Normally we solve the small problems, not realizing that we may have a systematic problem underlining all the small problems popping up. Yeah? Now, this is why project knowledge management has actually a very different objective. Yeah? So we are taking here from knowledge management and adapting it. So be aware, if you're talking to a librarian or somebody that studies business intelligence or something like that, they have a different objective with this. Yeah? So for project knowledge management, our objective is often avoiding duplication of work. This is kind of the metaphor of reinventing the wheel. Yeah? If you have a wheel that is functional, you can play around with alternative forms of gliding or rolling or whatever. Yeah? But the idea here being really avoiding duplication of work that may be adaptable from other projects. Learning by repetition, so it allows as well improvement or a targetness, being more effective, efficient. So those are normally driving forces behind it. Promoting innovation and being committed as well to changing practice. Yeah, and then 4 is harmonizing of methods and standardizing. So as far as it goes, this can mean if your company is doing it, that you have multiple standards. And I'll show you as well a few examples in a second. And then, of course, allocating respective resources. Yeah? So kind of arriving at a eye-level realization that if you have a misunderstanding, that you may need to allocate time to find actually out and come to the resources later. Okay. So what can it look like? Knowledge management adapted to project management. Now this is actually part of the paper. So we reviewed what different research teams have done. So there are different, so maybe as a general, we had the cultural stereotypes. There seems to be a little bit of that in engineering projects and construction, production. We see there actually stereotypes. So the knowledge processes that normally have been adapted to project management by Carvis, Vatamin, and I can't say the names properly, and Haile Kari, maybe something like that. Yeah. So apologies for not saying the names right. So they see the process of knowledge management and creating kind of knowledge in an active form of creation. So you start actually by kind of engaging with a project, and you make the best solutions up as you go along. Yeah. Of course, normally you would not write it down like that. You would say you engage with a problem and involve solution finding processes. So they create kind of the basis. Then this is kind of filtered and administered. So in kind of an explicit format, and then there's a dissemination against other scenarios if you want, and how well it did actually on your project. Yeah. And then for the future, utilization and productization. So this is actually quite manufacturing focused and not very adaptive. So this means as well you have a big organization, or you have done it for a consistent approach. Leibowitz, they came up with another model. They had kind of identification and capture. So they had a look at more lessons learned projects. Yeah? So they assume as well you have already done something, and then you take lessons learned reports, and you try to kind of capture it in a meaningful way. So this is actually quite interesting. And then they kind of got stuck with the notion, okay, we have to start sharing it as well. Yeah, so they had kind of a push mechanism to young project managers and teams to make sure that they're kind of engaging with the right background knowledge. So this is past case studies, issues that arise on typologies of projects, and it was actually quite meaningful. And then they kind of recommended a way of how to apply this on other projects. And notice here they are coming actually to the creation, so it's a formed approach where you actually kind of create the knowledge. So they have the upfront approach, if you want, to knowledge creation or the knowledge management process, really. And here, the next one is Lindner and Wald. So they start again on the other side, so that the generation, storage, dissemination, retrieval, and Ananta Muller, they had kind of acquisition and creation. So they recognized as well that you may have external services that you want to use, then you want to organize it in a meaningful way. Storage, retrieval, so this goes nearly into a library idea, and they saw it as a transfer model, and then presentation and application. Now, why are those upside down, and why do they present themselves in that way? And the quick answer is it has a lot to do with your culture. Yeah, if you are a natural communicator, and you have done a project, and you see like, hey, what we have done here, this is better than what we have done in the past, and you go back to your team or fellow project managers and you say, hey, you know this problem where we always get stuck, I have done it this time this way and it worked. If you have this culture, this is amazing. If you have the other culture, and this relates to a huge cluster of German engineering companies, I literally was sitting in the meeting, so there was a junior project manager, and he actually asked, hey, we have always problems with this. We have noticed this isn't even a problem in your projects. What happened? And he said, like, come on, you are a professional project manager. You should know. This is not a good environment. So there you have a boundary. It has to do with culture. Yeah. So if you arrive at the right culture, Lindner and Wald, you will see, is in Sweden, great country to share ideas. Yeah. So and there are others that are better or worse. Yeah, it's not just countries actually; it's really the culture and the company. Yeah, so in UK we have as well both. So it's we have a similar German approach and a similar kind of a more open approach. Yeah. Okay, so that was quite dry. So the domains of knowledge management. I just wanted to give you a list really of areas how we can apply that. So sharing knowledge and best practices, instilling responsibility for knowledge sharing, capturing and reusing past experiences, embedding knowledge in products, services, and processes. So do we come to I come as well to examples later. So producing knowledge as a product. Yeah, this can be as well a strong incentive. driving knowledge generation for innovation, so trying to reinvent what you're doing if something doesn't work well, trying it a different way. This is often not necessarily encouraged. Mapping networks of experts, in particular if you are working in a small company, it may be very difficult to have all the know-how in your company. So then it makes sense to actually identify with whom did we work in the past. And did they actually answer? Did they charge us for kind of giving us a solution, or did they show us how to come to a solution? So there are different types. And liabilities maybe as well a question then. Building and mining customer knowledge bases. So this goes already a little bit more in the kind of set organization and understanding and measuring the value of knowledge. So what knowledge is actually essential. So maybe it's negotiating contracts, maybe it's, well, there are different formats. And then last but not least, leveraging intellectual assets. So you can use them as well as kind of a branding exercise and promote, of course, your projects that you have with that. But this is just a selection. Now, for the example, a little bit a look at a case example. So this is a study that I did with the Volvo Technology Group. They are kind of a subgroup of Volvo, and they kind of sit across like multiple organizations and try to inform their practice with research and development, new technologies, and they manage a lot of the innovations, patents as well. And we kind of came with the study to the question, how could project knowledge management look like in Volvo, and basically assessed their context against it. So we knew that they have a sharing culture, so we had like a good hint on that. Technology-wise, so this is information and communication technology-wise, they were already very embracing with new technologies, which was very interesting. And process-wise, they were actually quite experimental, which was a nightmare for the supply chain. So I remember, actually, I think you told me as well that there was sometimes with some projects you experience a certain messiness. And there is an element of that, of course, when you try different ways with a set supply chain, you kind of surprise them, of course, if they're not in on that. Okay, so driving forces that we identified pretty much as a kind of pilot study were culture, technology, and processes that they use and that people are kind of used to and on which you can build, basically. So if you go with the definitions, we kind of broke that down into organizational culture. It's defined as a shared beliefs, values, practices of a group or groups within the organization. So this is kind of a little bit functionally applied. And then we went with Hanish for the information technology. So the support by information technology tools has proven to be necessary but not sufficient factor for the quality of project knowledge management. And last, the processes. Here we went again with Hanish definition. Easy to use standards and processes should be chosen on purpose, since the aim is to ease usage with as little as possible additional effort. So it was the recognition that if you use on projects very sophisticated wikis or systems, project teams don't engage with it anymore. At least that was what we kind of found out. Which was a little bit heartbreaking. So our Nora library from Northumbria was not so interesting then to them. So how did we actually come to the point where we could improve and actually measure the improvement of the project knowledge management in Volvo? Now we kind of broke it down in how the behavior was illustrated. So techniques of knowledge management and applications and the management of projects. So we basically followed them around. That creeped a lot of the guys out, but again, beautiful methodology for MSc dissertation. So we had 3 students working on this. And they literally were committed to individual project managers and monitoring what they were doing. So it's not easy to find this commitment. So this was quite good. So the theoretical framework for the project knowledge management was really kind of key success factors based on knowledge sharing behavior. So this is what we were after. And we literally looked at the contributor and receiver. Yeah? So we looked, who does the product manager talk to, or who are they going to actually get the information? Or, sorry, I'm already explaining here the dichotomy. Or other way around, who is coming to them to tell them what to do? Yeah, or other way around, who do they actually strive to speak to? Yeah. So you notice that there's a direction in it. They had different strategy as well, personification and codification. This is just fancy language from knowledge management. Codifying means you write it down. Personification is you talk to people. Yeah. This is not quite that clear cut, but it's basically your knowledge sharing behavior strategy, right? That sounds again very complicated, but be with me. This is amazing stuff and quite counterintuitive. So, and we look kind of at culture. So we kind of try to establish what their preferred ways of behavior are, right? We map that out. Quite painful for the project managers. Interesting stuff for kind of the graduate students, because they can see already how professional project managers actually do it, right? And then we looked as well at the processes. We could map those out. Technology we knew up front. They gave us actually kind of the list and access to it. Again, this was confidential. Of course, we didn't. I can't really go in too much details, but the idea is there. Now, to break it down, so we have as well something called a project memory system, and then the project memory. To explain this, if you are on the codification strategy, the project memory system is traditional and new information and communication technologies. This may be the file where your past project management files are in it, yeah? Or if you use Excel for simulating risk probabilities, yeah, then you may have something like that. So this can be a folder with documents in it, documents itself, databases, maybe emails. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. So this is the memory system. Then you have the project memory, and this can be explicit and declarative knowledge. So this is specifications, instructions, definitions. In Volvo, they do like beautiful posters and visualization. Yeah, it's a great organization in that sense, because this is of course brilliant. So it's consistently kind of speaking to you. Yeah, the posters as a powerful, explicit knowledge in this case. Yeah. Then on the personalization strategy, so this was memory representation. So personal interactions. So this is mental models from past projects. Yeah. So for example, the one that I gave you just in this session, don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah? Although it's fascinating to do, the hint here is it's actually quite difficult to reinvent it in the first place. But we have as well the wheel. Yeah? So you may have other mental models that you use. Dialogues, so kind of exchange or a meaningful conversation. Workshops, seminars that you have kind of had together. Yeah, so this session, for example, you could use it in the future. And then we have as well the project memory itself with the personalization strategy. Here's tacit and procedural knowledge. So this is competences, values, norms, or actually behaviors that you may be expected to illustrate. Yeah. Now then you can overlap that. Can you? Yeah. So now we have to think in 3 dimensions. So this then comes to individualized perspective and institutionalized. So institutionalized is expected norm-wise, and individualized is you kind of adapt it to the individual. It's not necessarily expected. Yeah? So again, here you have the personalization strategy. This is the first quadrant. Individualized personalization mechanism. This is kind of how do we get that? You speak to the people that you know. Yeah? This is your individual contact. Yeah? Then you have the institutionalized format. So institutionalized personalization mechanism, providing access to experts. So this you can go with university consultants. So there are multitude. Yeah, this would be a way of dealing with it. It's externalized. Yeah, and they're institutionalized because they have been recognized as an authority or some form of knowing person, or maybe competent, maybe competent, then you have the codification again. This is quadrant number 1. So here you have individualized codification mechanism. So documents produced during the project and stored on individual hard disk are transferred through social networks, so maybe shared. So this would be you have a question for a document, or you want a specific case for your project, program, and portfolio management case scenario, then you could email me and I could give you access to the extended list. But so this could be one way of doing it. Yeah. Or you can write me a Facebook or LinkedIn message. Yeah, same idea. Yeah. Then we have institutionalized formats, so institutionalized codification mechanisms. This is databases and repositories. So this would be kind of the stuff that I give you up front. So on the ELP, for example, all the lectures and additional learning material where I break down as well applications from this. So this would be, it's really a web page, but it could be seen as a database in this respect. Yeah. Okay. So with this, you can then kind of look at it in terms of tools for assessing the strategy. So size and geographical dispersion was an element. So in Volvo, you will see they have actually different hubs. They have different groups as well, as you would expect from a multinational. And then on the other side, we divided this as well in nature of work or problems. So is it actually a usual procedure where you just need like the newest pricing, or is it actually an issue that popped up and it's like kind of a unique thing? So standardized versus unique, and here small and co-located versus large and geographically dispersed. And again, you can then map, of course, the strategies again. So if you are small and co-located, so if we are all in the same room, and it's a unique challenge, well, then it's most suitable for individualized personalization mechanism, so talking to each other, right? Then large and geographically dispersed, again, unique, most suitable for institutionalized personalization mechanisms. What was that? Phone robot, yeah, as the expert, yeah. So this is a phone joker, yeah, if you want. Then you had kind of standardized, and here again, small and co-located, most suitable for individualized codification mechanism. So just ask, hey, can you give me the form? Yeah, so it's very intuitional if you think about it, but we have actually to declare it to kind of come to a clear and kind of too much noise related setup. Yeah? Then quadrant 3 is kind of large and geographically dispersed and standardized, most suitable for institutionalized codification mechanisms. So this may be a database, something like that, yeah, or ELP, what we have, yeah. Okay, so what did we do? Well, as I said, 3 students run around with the project managers. So for a knowledge contributor, it's very kind of, probably nobody looks at the word that way, but you have here kind of the knowledge sharing behavior. So you have the contributor, and they have codified it. So they have written a report of lesson learned of the last project. Yeah? Or worse, I have written a paper on it and I'm pushing it this way towards you. What is your initial reaction? How do you feel? I'm pushing. Is this like, I mean, of course, it's your top list to read like straight after the lecture now. But what's how do you feel about this? Somebody giving you like a document, hey, this is very important for you, you should read this. How do you feel? Okay, by the smile I take it, yeah, but why? Why should I read this? Yeah, this is a big question, yeah? And you're quite right, so normally the receiver is somewhere there. Tell me more. I'm not yet convinced, yeah? So there's a certain sales strategy required, and it's a pull mechanism. So like, what is it about the paper? And if the answer is, I have all written it down, just read it. It's the most amazing way of written word. It's the shortest way. I've thought long about it. Yeah. So normally this is not really impressive for the receiver, and it's not very impressive, but it has huge implication. So sorry, that was too quick. It means we are missing each other. Still, the receiver wants to know, but they do you see the issue? Yeah. Okay, so what can we do? So when they, well, this is of course again a beautiful visualization of the problem. So we had then knowledge receiver, blank sheet approach. So just ignore it. Yeah, this is one option, and we observed it. Doesn't happen very often. Normally it comes back, so you can ignore for some time. It's the ostrich approach, and then it comes back later. Yeah, then it's more urgent, and then normally it's very difficult to kind of ignore. Then find internal written material. Yeah, so intranet, they have as well a wiki. So this was actually quite impressive. Then ask a colleague. Yeah, you don't want to overstretch that. Yeah, so don't ask too many times, otherwise there's the fatigue as well. And then search externally, yeah, straight away on the university network. Yeah, okay, who are the professors in this area? Yeah, that's option 2. There's a ratio to effort and benefit, of course. Yeah, and blank sheet is it just comes back later. Yeah, normally, or somebody else solves this for you. But if this happens repeatedly, there's often undesired association. Yeah? Then find internal written material in the projects often seen as an obstacle. So in other words, nobody does that. Yeah, this is quite problematic. And then ask a colleague, this happens a lot, and search externally. Yeah, so having somebody else responsible as well for the answer, this is always good. It's reassuring, right? It's not your problem. You asked the best person available, they came, you paid them, so now it's their responsibility. If it goes wrong, it's theirs. Yeah? So this is really where it was. Again, this is not too impressive, but important and very counterintuitive. So we noticed as well that the receiver normally went for preferred network. So it's very social oriented in Volvo, which is very good actually. Yeah. Now that meant that the sharing behavior as well was respectively adapted. So matching contributor and receiver strategies. So this was a little role play that we kind of did with them and kind of looked at the behavior and made them aware of that. And then we monitored basically the changes as you would. Oh, why is it not going on? Technology. Very good. Yeah? So matching. So kind of showing the value in the codified papers and making the codification more meaningful. Yeah, so asking the contributor as well when they read through it, what was useless, yeah, what didn't need to be in the report. So you have actually an iterative process of making the material more meaningful. And then you can play around with categorization of projects. So you know on this project, actually only this part of the lesson learned was meaningful, not the other parts. Yeah? So here we are actually kind of creating something great. Yeah? Okay, so and then we had a push mechanism as well. So they were actually kind of asking the contributor, where is this document coming from? So this was one way. So to go actually back and explain this. So what that means is when you come to a problem, there are already kind of databases, or in this case a reporting system that actually focuses on problems. Yeah? So with certain issues, there were already cases associated of how to manage it. Yeah, this is of course a little bit more meaningful. And then you had as well matching contributor and receiver strategy. This was kind of the opposite. So here you had kind of the push mechanism, and in this case actually a pull. So talking basically to the receiver why this is important. Again, it seems very easy, but it made a huge difference. Yeah? So if you as well as a contributor kind of explained why this report is meaningful and what the aspects are, then the other guys of your team have, of course, an understanding and can as well, respectively, kind of engage with codification mechanisms. Yeah? Okay, so knowledge receiver, how did that look? So here's the kind of network analysis. So we had different, what was fascinating is we had actually chains of people just handing on like, oh, I don't know, but I know that Stephen, last year, he had something to do with it. Ask him, he knows, or he knows somebody. And it was right. He knew somebody else, and he knew somebody else. So basically, this was actually quite painful for our students. So they basically walked along with the project manager, phoning around and meeting people to finally find the contributor that was meaningful. Yeah? This was as well a question of the personal network. Yeah? So sometimes the project manager had that. Yeah? So in Volvo, they are very social. They know a lot of the different departments. So they're actually quite good at this. But there were as well kind of junior project manager or the graduate scheme. They basically kind of run into walls. They asked the mentor, and the mentor had normally the network, but if the mentor was busy or not available, then it was often a short run. So they gave as well a try to kind of the other graduate project managers, and then were like, yeah, I don't know either. So, and this is of course unsatisfying because you haven't really solved anything. So there was as well a question of quality. We looked at the contribution. So if you stay in your networks, not surprisingly, you kind of reconfirm. So you kind of have a normative element. If you're going for better contributor out, and you can do so, then or you jump directly to the contributor without asking everybody. This is of course brilliant. So in Volvo's case, we actually had an expertise. Yeah, they call it a phone book. I'm not sure that is so it's basically a network description, a wiki of all the experts, yeah, or people that worked on specific projects. Now again, this is of course a codification mechanism, which worked all right for them, but again, it's not necessarily what works for every project. Yeah. Okay, so this was, if you think about it, have a look at the paper. This is actually very simple, but it was very counterintuitive for the project manager, and the change in behavior really improved their practice. Yeah, we can talk about everything, like kind of design costs up front. You can basically measure the reduction. Yeah. Let's have a 10 minutes break. Sorry, I had already full hour. I'm aware this is a heavy topic, but it's worthwhile. Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes, and then we have a look at other examples. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not Blackboard. Yeah.
And this is BE11. This is maybe because I've taken the old ones down. I have now this new.
Try to make a
Good way of doing it.
Okay, let's start again. Now, I've kind of introduced to you here, of course, a conceptual breakdown of reality. So you will see, and this was a particular challenge for the students actually conducting the study. Normal people have a dialogue. So you ask a question, I will try to answer, and then I may ask a question back to see if I understood your question right. So yeah, it's a dialogue. So it's not as clean cut as we have illustrated this here. This is more about the goal of information seeking, understanding, and know-how. Yeah, knowing how to do it. Yeah, and be aware with that. This is more to do with the knowledge management theory behind it, that we actually look at it that way. Yeah. So this goes as well at very quick information exchange. So even if you have an algorithm just checking like for information, they would even see that as well as contributor and receiver. This is where this is coming from. Yeah. Now, that was one application in a particular project scenario, and you can see that it looks very tempting. Yeah, so particular as a student, this is probably a wonderful model too. Yeah, how can I find quicker the better contributor for your questions? Yeah, and that is of course a very interesting way. Now, I had another student. He was really interested at risk, and I should add here again. This was focusing on construction and civil engineering, and he looked at techniques of knowledge management and applications in the management of projects for risk, and he kind of did an area mapping, and I will just show you a few applications that you can kind of get your head a little bit around what actually the tools and techniques are. So they identified different risk areas that normally occur in common projects, so that they look basically at their past, I think 50 projects or something, and then kind of spoke to the project managers to kind of make sense of it. So unavailability of information was a classic, and here he matched kind of tools or toolbox. This was on the construction side. You have a toolbox talk. Does anybody know what that is? Toolbox talk?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it roughly?
Well, when we do toolbox talks, it's just before we go out for the day.
Yep.
We kind of assemble, maybe in a coffee shop, and then just talk about what we're going to do for the day, what we're going to do for the week.
Yeah.
You know, what the respective rules is going to be before we go out.
Yeah, very good.
What are the latest updates?
Yeah.
Or the latest updates, things like that.
Yeah. So a toolbox comes literally from the old chestnut. You have bought a new machine and you are going to operate it, and the manufacturer is now explaining how to operate it. Yeah, this is where it originally comes from. Yeah, and toolbox was the idea: if something goes wrong, which tool you have to use to kind of make the machine work again. That goes back quite some time. But nowadays, toolbox is kind of the idea, or the toolbox talk metaphor, kind of briefing what are we trying to achieve on the day, what are kind of the hurdles, when is material delivered, who is coping with what. So a little bit task allocation in the organization if you want. Yeah. Okay, so unavailability of information, this was rooted in different elements. So there he kind of identified brainstorming, best practices, so sharing what has been done before, past experiences, cross-project learning. Yeah, so this was again the chestnut looking at the parallel project, yeah, or past project potentially, how they have dealt with the gap of information. Yeah, so just not there. Or intellectual assets use. So this could be as well that you have like a team that kind of looks at particular problems and can come up with a solution that is brandable and sellable. And again, then last one was knowledge maps, so kind of looking at experts that may provide the information. So you can see that absence of defined context. So this is as well quite an interesting one. So a lot of it's not just construction projects. Projects have often a repetitive element, but often all the contextual factors are completely different. If you build a bridge for infrastructure, or you build a kind of office, and you do this a lot, or Olympic stadium or football stadium, it doesn't really matter. And you do this now in one part of the area, you have one stakeholder group, locals, neighbors, whatever, legislation system, nature, temperature, you name it, natural forces. And then if you do this somewhere else, this is likely to change. So your project is maybe still looking very similar, but you probably have to engage differently. You have to reassess your tools. Now, when you're doing something like that, it's interesting to look at knowledge fairs, pestle analysis. Did we have that before? I think we have that actually in 2 weeks. But I think I've already listed it once, but we haven't really practiced it. Then knowledge embedding, smart analysis, best practices, and knowledge workshops are, again, tools that can really make a difference here. And then inadequate information flow, or as well asymmetry in information flow. So, you are the person that should find out, but you read every time the information in the newspaper rather than receiving it from who you should talk to. Then maybe reward incentives, so centralizing and rewarding can be a good way of doing so. After action reviews, lessons learned, communities of practice, storytelling, and knowledge databases can be a very powerful thing. Yeah, and I noticed as well, normally storytelling, particularly in construction, that was a great invention. I remember when the student came very proudly back and said, I think what you need is more storytelling. And this didn't go down well. So storytelling is, of course, very powerful because it provides you with context and additional information. But it was completely disregarded by the project site managers and the construction managers that we were dealing with. They missed really a trick there. But in reality, it was embraced by one senior member, and he pointed out that they're doing this already. So the storytelling was as well kind of talking about the successes and how they've done that. So again, very powerful. But some of them have been branded due to kind of common day language into something that may not appeal in the first place. Lack of framework of references. So again, if you kind of come out that you don't have a reference or projects, then you can look at ways of benchmarking against criteria of aspects of other projects, that you have some orientation. Again, maybe try to develop best practices, lesson learned, maybe make a knowledge audit. Talk to people what they actually understand from the project and what, where identify by that as well where the gap may lie. Knowledge sharing itself, so pair people up to kind of work together that may have different expertise area. And again, knowledge maps was a powerful one. Ineffective linkage of systems. I have that on all projects. I shouldn't even say that is construction specific. It's, if you use for your projects more than one software or more media platforms, then you're already there. It's not effectively linked systematically. So then it's of course a question of embedding information, knowledge brokerage maybe. So a chief knowledge officer. This is what the big companies do. But it maybe is well applicable for if you have a very knowledge-intensive organization. Think about it, because it can create a completely different interface and make life a lot easier. Yeah, you will remove here the hygiene factors that are unbeneficial for your project managers. People are generally more happy to come to work and engage with it. Knowledge audits, again, knowledge workers maybe. So this is kind of aiming at looking at an expert for a particular problem. So if you have an information system, maybe invite an information scientist. Yeah? In many construction projects, we always find out that the IT guy was a construction manager that kind of had as a hobby a little bit programming and was one that was actually able to kind of put the computers together. This is of course horrendous. You're not embracing here kind of sufficient information science. You're just kind of adapting as you are capable of it. Yeah, so there's an issue with that. Collaborative technologies may be powerful. If you have a main client, maybe incentivize that they actually invest in a system, so there may be additional resources that can create better relationships and long-term gains. And again, knowledge maps was as well one that was quite important. Yeah, so I have here as well a list. This is as well one of my research areas. So I'm quite passionate about knowledge management. So particularly in projects, if you're interested in this, this is more or less a list with papers that kind of are up to date and kind of give you an overview how this can be used in different settings. And they are all kind of project specific or have been adapted for change project in organizations and describe as well the scenarios good. Yeah, so forming communities of practice. This is literally having us all working together as a community of practice of sharing ideas where we can just have a chit chat and support each other, yeah, where we have a shared goal. To create something like this is a very strong supportive mechanism because you have kind of personalized access, yeah? So you can ask people questions and we have maybe a shared interest like project management. This would be then quite powerful. Creation and utilization of knowledge databases. Actually are doing this at the moment, yeah, with your project file or project management plan. You're actually engaging with this. So have a look how it works and how you can create it meaningfully. Yeah? Incorporation of lessons learned into strategies. Yeah, this is a tricky one. Easier said than done. So again, this means you have to study upfront the lessons learned. Yeah, brainstorming sessions, we have done that. Establishing knowledge maps, we haven't done that yet. That is coming later. Performing a knowledge audit. This is actually quite tricky, but very powerful. Yeah, if you do it well. Benchmarking, we have played around with that already in the spaghetti challenge. Yeah, when you have competitors that do the same thing, there's a conscious point where you start comparing. Yeah. You can use it, of course, as a structural feature to kind of have stepping stones. Yeah? And usage of rewards. Be careful. So rewards work both ways. This is a hobby. I've noticed that my friends, I have a lot of friends that have engaged with. No, I should rephrase it. So they're in the lucky position to be parents. That is a better way of phrasing this. And they bring the children to school, and the local school in Tynemouth, they were annoyed. There were a lot of parents that were working, and they were kind of always late, and this was kind of not cool. The teacher had to stay longer, so they were thinking and asking us, hey, what can we do to kind of bring this down? And one of our psychologists here said, like, oh, you have to work with a negative reward. So whenever they are late, they have to pay £10 into the coffee tin. Yeah, and this was a bad strategy. Yeah? In timers, if you watch the cars, yeah, £10 is not a problem. This is just legitimizing that you are basically coming late. Yeah, and you pay quite happy for it. Yeah? So in reality, you had a lot more people coming late and children waiting and more teacher required to kind of keep sight of things. So incentivization can as well work negatively. Yeah. Whilst we had actually in literature, we found a counterexample of my colleague from Newcastle Uni that worked with parents in India, and they just had a social mechanism, and this is pretty terrible, but it was very sufficient. There was a social shaming going on. Yeah? So there was a feeling that if you are late for picking up your child, that you are actually neglecting and you're not loving them as much or prioritizing them. Now there's a lot of wrong actually with that too, but all I'm saying, the natural mechanism was actually more powerful than incentivizing kind of paying fees. And yeah, they're still all coming late. So if you want to observe that, it's a King's School, yeah, timers. Have a look. That's actually remarkable. Yeah, but yeah, there you go. Then storytelling, another one for transferring tacit knowledge. Yeah, not really, but you get more context, and you can of course ask and actively engage. So this is of course very powerful. Now there are more, and even more. I've kind of all highlighted them. I have kind of one. Today we have as well a little bit self-experiment, so we will play a game, and we will actually come to terms with the nature. At the moment, as society, we play an interesting game. This is research that I've done with my former supervisor. He's still in project management as well. We looked at knowledge management, skills, competencies, and I was quite fascinated because language-wise there are differences. So skills is actually 2 words in Germany, and competence is kind of 1 word. In France, it's 3 words, right? So it's actually quite interesting how we have clustered that. And there's a history. If you grow up and you had a benefit of being surrounded by a family, then there is an order, a preference on seeking behavior. And that is not necessarily functional. So in the economic perspective, we believe that you should be competent to do your job. You don't have to be an expert or wise. This takes a very long time. Yeah, we have designated that to individuals. So I'm such a person. So they have just given up on me and said like, yeah, he's competent, but he doesn't do the thing the same way. We don't know what to expect with him. He always does different things, and it's very complicated. So I'm striving clearly for something else. But in companies, we actually look at competence. You want to have it as a performative framework to have a designated output. Yeah. Now, be aware, the social and cultural perspective actually seeks wisdom. Yeah? And I will just give you a definition for wisdom to simplify it. Wisdom is you have done it many times wrong, so you're foreseeing actually when factors arise that are likely to make the project fail again. That is when you're wise. Yeah? So you have a very thorough understanding of what can go wrong. Yeah? Hence you are a good advisor. Yeah? You can warn people if they're going off track. But this means as well you were very committed, yeah, to failure up front. Yeah? So it's a little bit a joke, but at the same time there's a lot in it. Yeah? So this is an element that you will be fighting if you kind of embrace knowledge management in projects. Yeah? So the temporality kind of is normally happy. There are terminologies in projects. Yeah? I don't know if you've heard this will do. Is this something you have come across? Yeah? This will do the job, it's okay. Let's go, it's Friday. Yeah? So, yeah, so it's implicit in this. Yeah? It's a key perspective to consider. Of course, there's a bottom line. So we normally stop at knowledge. If you're striving towards wisdom, you may change jobs a lot. Yeah? So some contracts may not like that. Yeah? So be aware this is kind of the set of what is involved in it. Yeah? Okay, I wanted, can I record this? This will be again cut out by my marketing team, but I show it anyway. So before we get started, if you know what is required and what the rules are, you are in for remarkable surprises. And the tone is always very loud. Let's see that I have that right. Okay, maybe just play around with this. If it works. Oh, I've crashed the whole system. Okay, let's see first that I have the sound right. Oh, we can't. Okay, let's do it the other way around. Okay, so that you don't lose your hearing over this track. Okay, this is it. So this is the difference between knowing and competence. Yeah. I hope you like it. It's pretty quick. If it works. Oh, I see. Okay, let's do it the other way around. That is just... Okay, second attempt. Okay, shall I show the beginning again? It's very quick. So again, you probably have never played American football, but here it is. So it's a game. Okay. Yeah, so the point here being, what do you think? Actually, I've written it down as well, but was that okay, or was that cheating?
It was.
It was a trick. Yeah. So but it worked? Yeah, to a degree. So I mean, it's again a little bit fun, but the point here is, if you really understand and know what the frame is, then you will outwit competencies and skills always by miles. Yeah, because you're playing a completely different game. Yeah. Again, for the competent people, they would probably say like, "Oh, this was cheating. This is not okay. Let's redo it." Yeah. But again, it's actually within the game. Yeah. So be prepared for that. It is powerful. Yeah, I have as well a little bit background. So Chen Berger, they have done kind of a massive survey, and actually, who has done the follow-up? I think it's somebody like it's either Deloitte or there's a follow-up study from this in 2015, but I couldn't find the graph, so in the end I didn't bring it up. But where is knowledge in the firm? So they kind of looked in where it's based, and a key element here is this is all nice and warm, so you can see codified strategies are there. But the important thing for you as a project manager to take away from this session is, so there is managerial, yeah, but there's as well a lot of non-managerial knowledge. So the knowledge is, and the knowing how to do it is within your people. Yeah, so find a smart way of involving them, yeah, to engage them, so that you actually play the different game. This is, if you want my message from this. I have as well kind of the literature breakdown why you should do this. Of course, a company's intellectual capital represents its ability to change in the face of adversity. So it's a very timely thing. Yeah? So particularly if you face an insecure environment, knowledge management or embracing knowledge, yeah, and looking at doing things slightly different gives you a different playground. So you are not stuck to a market that may not work anymore. It gives you a lot more agility. Yeah. It allows you to develop as well new products, cut research and development time, and provide quality customer service, share knowledge with employees, partners, and customers. Yeah. So this is it for today. Again, I've tried to make it a little bit shorter because we have actually quite a hefty seminar coming, and I know as well that it's the final week to have a look at the assessments. I will upload them actually now. Yeah. So, but if you have any questions or answers for me, then ask me. Okay. Otherwise, this is it for the lecture. I see you in the seminars, and yeah, have a look at the assessments. They will be uploaded this time not in the week, but in the assessment sections because it's the assessments. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But you carry the body.